Welcome everyone to Male Fuzz TV. I am Peter, that is Tara, and we are going to talk about Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 8. It is called Surrender, what you should never do, or give up, for that matter. Galaxy Quest, the best Star Trek movie that's ever been made. Book it. Alright, so in the last episode, Vadic took control of the Titan. So we start this episode with the Titan under siege. And we have kind of a standoff where Jack's with Picard and Beverly down in somewhere, right? But Sydney, Data / lore / B4 is with Geordi. And I was actually thinking early in the episode, I'm like, it feels like Raffi and Worf just disappeared a couple of episodes ago for seemingly no reason. And
yeah, same with Riker and Troy, right? Because we saw them a couple episodes ago, and then they weren't in the last one.
Yeah. I mean, at least we kind of knew he'd been taken, but it did occur to me, like, oh yeah, technically they must be on their ship that's come and docked or sitting next to the Titan. But out of nowhere, halfway through this episode, Worf just makes a grand entrance, and they love playing that Klingon music every time he shows up in the show.
I mean, it's good.
It is good. I'm not disputing it, but it is.
I think the score in this show has been very, very good.
It's it's hitting a lot of your nostalgia beats, and it's
yeah. Well, even last week's episode where things got real moody, and I brought up that it was very, very much like a Game of Thrones song.
So the big thing here is that Vadic is going to start executing people on the bridge if Jack doesn't give himself up, and that's kind of the central crisis of the episode that everyone's sort of trying to deal with. Meanwhile, like, to fight back the programming or the commands that Vadic's put into the ship, they need something that can do 9,000 computational blah blah blah, and then obviously Picard's eyes light up and we're like, sounds like a data problem. And sure enough, that's kind of the goal for a lot of the characters, to get data online and get him fighting back. So that's the gist of the episode. And obviously there's some big teases and revelations about where things are going towards the end. So how did you feel about episode 8, Surrender?
I liked the episode. I think it was pretty good. It kind of there's some nice showcases between characters that I really enjoyed seeing. I really liked the shot at the end, also made me smile, where everybody is sort of having a conference in a conference room, Next Generation style. That was really cool. I loved every time that Worf was on screen.
Sure, yes.
What were we saying?
I was going to say they played the main theme when they all sat down because they knew it was a moment.
It was a moment, and it worked on me. I love every time Worf is on screen. I think he's still funny. He's still got it. It feels very familiar, you know.
Yeah, he kind of captures his voice and mannerisms, maybe like from what he used to do, the best out of all the actors probably. But I like the episode too. I think it's mostly a pretty solid, structured episode. There's a couple of minor nitpicks and, you know, some little things here or there that are a bit, whatever, we'll get into them. But broadly speaking, the idea of Jack trying to use his ability to, like, sort of, like, hijack people around the ship to help them get out of the situation and saying, hey, this is how we can do this, was interesting. Sydney, of course, witnessed this last episode in the fight scene that we talked about. So she was there to kind of back up that, no, he can really do this. Like, he's not just crazy. Like, this is something that's actually happening. And the big revelation with this, though, is that when he tries to do it, Vadic can tell and know that she knew what his powers were. She knew what makes him special. And when they confront each other on the bridge, there's some pretty big tell signs that this is probably, it very much is looking like Picard being, you know, Borg, at least temporarily, and passing something down to Jack feels like the direction we're going in here. A couple of things that made me think this. One, when Seven stayed back on the bridge, Vadic said how fitting it is that you're here to witness this. That only makes sense for her, I think, if it's Borg related. Two, I was also thinking about the idea that Varric keeps saying to him, "Oh, what is it like to have this loneliness?" And then all of a sudden starting to hear these voices, and it was making me think of when a Borg is separated from the collective and how lonely they feel because they're not part of a whole anymore. So I'm thinking that's maybe what the voices are. I don't know what the significance of a red door is necessarily, but
no.
And
I was thinking it was just gonna allow, like, he's keeping whatever's trying to take him over behind, like in his mind, trapped in a door or something behind a door, and if he opens it, he's letting it out.
Yeah, but
metaphorically.
One problem with that though is that Varric brings up the red door, which means it's something she knew about, which means it's not just something in his head, so it has to be something specific. Like it's like, no, it has to be part of the whole thing, is that it's a red door. Why would she know it's a red door? Unless
I don't know.
Unless the person who's hired her to try and come get Jack is just the Borg Queen, and the Borg Queen knows because she is loosely connected to him, and she knows it's a red door. No?
I don't know.
I still wish it was Moriarty's Wrath of Khan. I really do. Especially since we already did so much Borg stuff last season.
I don't know that we're getting any more Moriarty.
I don't think so anymore either.
I don't hate the idea that like Picard, if this is saying, like, establishing why he never wanted to have a family, it's not just about him, like, not caring about a legacy like that, but if he was always, worried that maybe he would pass something on from the Borg, from his experience. I kind of like that. That works way better than, like, the mother hanging herself, and why he never, like, had a...
Do you need that, though? Because he already felt like he didn't want kids anyway, just like a normal way. So... Yeah.
No, I agree. But, like, if this is something that they're going to throw in there to be like, well, this is why he never really wanted to have kids, or maybe he was more adamant about it, is because he was afraid of passing on something that was left behind by the Borg, or even, like, it affecting the mother, the carrier, or something too. Who knows?
But it doesn't have to be something he was worried about, though. Like,
it doesn't have to.
Yeah, it makes enough sense to me, this idea. It was specifically when she was talking about, like, you felt so lonely and now you're connected to something. It was making me think, oh, this sounds Borgy.
It feels like a collective.
Yeah, it feels like he's loosely connected to the collective, but obviously he's evolved, much like the changelings are this evolved version of themselves, where they've got more abilities to mimic actual biology now to get past sensors. I was getting the sense that, because Jack's going around and, like, taking people over telepathically, and that's not a thing that the Borg can do, but it is something the Borg can do with each other, right? The Borg literally are all connected, right? And they're all kind of acting as one. So I'm thinking that because Jack's, like, this natural, like, combination of human and Borg, potentially, that he's effectively got the ability to do it with other organic people. And that's what he's doing. He's connecting to them the same way the Borg connect with each other, but he can do it with other people.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening with his power.
He's just like a mutation.
Yeah, he's like a mutation, yeah.
Okay. That was brought on by the Borg.
And to be fair, thematically, it would link up with the idea of the changelings also having went through this change.
This great link.
Yeah. And yeah, the Great Link and the Collective do have some thematic...
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, you've not, like, really come across anything like this in the show yet, when in your newly viewings of of Deep Space Nine. I didn't say that very, very well, but you know what I mean.
It wasn't even that complicated. Like, yeah, I've not gotten that very far yet. I'm in season 1.
I don't think before I say things. I just sort of wing it and just hope that what comes out makes sense.
Oh, we can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm leaning towards, because of Locutus, because there was something in Picard. This is what this is. This is the Blade mother thing, right? She was bitten when she was pregnant.
That's what I always think of.
Yeah, that's what this is. Picard had some Borg in his semen, and it went over to Beverly, and
Beverly,
and it's created Jack, because that was the other thing. Troy's got a line later on because obviously she senses some dark presence on the ship, but she says when she's talking about Jack in the meeting with everyone else, she says that she senses something very old, weak but very old, and I'm like,
she's ancient. Yeah, she says.
I was like, that sounds kind of Borg Queenie to me.
You think?
Maybe not ancient. I don't know. Like, I don't know how old the Borg Queen is, but
well, I mean, it can't be Jeri, right? I mean, even though she is technically there, she's in that universe, in that timeline.
Yeah, I don't know how Jeri fits into this now based on last season, and like,
if they try to connect it, I mean, it's both good and bad. But
yeah, I'd rather they didn't. Stay away from the rest of the show, please. Thank you.
We'll see what they can do.
Yeah. Well, actually, so one of the things we have to talk about, right, is the fact that the villain here is dead by the end of the episode. She gets T-1000. She gets shot into space.
I was thinking Demolition Man.
Oh, I could see it. I don't know. I see, like, but because she actually is a liquid form, like the T-1000, I was thinking Terminator 2. But yeah, in space, freezes and then smashes into her own ship and shatters into 1,000 pieces, which, you know, fun.
You could see her face on one of the pieces that like floats around. It's a good detail.
I appreciate that. For some reason, they accompanied this big moment where they get her out the ship with a paraphrasing of Harrison Ford from Air Force One. I damn near spit out my drink when Seven says, "Get off my bridge."
She says it so gruff also.
Yeah, she says it just like Harrison Ford. It's like she's doing a Harrison Ford impression.
Get off my bridge.
I'm like, all right, that was a choice.
Yeah, it made me laugh.
Yeah. So, this is very interesting from a structure point of view that was spent all season with her chasing after them. And yes, we have hinted that there's someone pulling her strings. Absolutely, that's been set up. But it is so weird that we've only got 2 episodes left and we kill her off here, because now it's like we effectively have a 2-part, essentially a movie, right, between the next 2 episodes to finish this story. Now we know that there's something being planned for Frontiers Day. We know we're building up to that, and obviously we still have to answer what's going on with Jack exactly. But the fact that this episode ends with all the crew together, and okay, it's actually the next gen crew, all one, even Data, everyone. We'll talk about Data obviously separately in a minute, but everyone's together. It kind of feels like, oh, and now we're just going to get the last next gen movie over the next 2 episodes. It's just had a lot of setup in these last 8 to like establish everything so it all makes sense to us. Yeah,
literally the whole band's back together now, except for Wesley Crusher.
But it is weird though, because this like real villain means that we're like they effectively have 2 episodes to really do it with them.
What if the real villain is Tasha Yar? Then we'd really have everybody.
We had Tasha this episode though. We got the hologram thing.
That's true. We did get Tasha.
I can't. We got Tasha. And do you know what? I was actually spoiled for me because Denise Crosby tweeted out like her thank you for her legacy because Tasha's so important to Star Trek. I'm like, what are you talking about? You were there for half a season and got killed by a puddle. Which interestingly, changelings are kind of puddles. They're like evolved.
They are very much like Armus.
Yeah, there's some similarities there. One can't deny it.
Yeah, but they're black and the other ones are gold. Yeah, it was some distant relative. A changeling that they left for too long and hasn't been cleansed or something.
So, yeah, so a lot to go take in get into these last 2 episodes as far as like I do genuinely. This felt like enough of an ending to most of what was going. I know it's got a cliffhanger, and I know there's still things to answer, but this wrapped up so many things that we've actually been dealing with for most of the show. Even simple little things like Shaw seems to respect Seven more now. You know, at the end of the episode, he says,
still
"Hey."
Hasn't called her Seven though, right?
He's not. Yeah, but
they're saving that for last, I guess.
Yeah, but they're on like a better place now than they were before. We've dealt with who's felt like the main villain for most of the season. Data, his plots, he's Data. Well, I mean, he's kind of like new Data, right?
Yeah, Data 2.0.
He's got an extra little bit in there. He's got a little bit of the lore and that, but he's this new version of Data. Like we've sort of done all these things. We've brought the crew together. It does really feel like these last 2 episodes are effectively just going to be the 5th next gen movie, which It's good and bad. It is kind of weird from a structural point of view that this villain, whoever it is, like, has been held back this much. That we're only going to really get an introduction, presumably in the next episode. Or maybe not. Maybe they'll save it to the very last episode. But
yeah, I don't know. I imagine that Frontier's Day is going to be the next episode, and then the final episode may just be like about goodbyes, since this is the final season. And he probably has to return back to his hot Romulan wife or girlfriend.
Oh, Picard, yeah.
Yeah.
It took me a second to remember who the hell you were talking about there, to be honest.
I don't know. I feel like the last episode is going to be a bunch of people like circle jerking about how great TNG was.
I think there'll be a lot of that, but I think it'll be the last 20 minutes, half hour of it. I think Frontiers Day, like the actual showdown, will still be in the last episode, but there'll be like a build up to it next time.
Okay.
That would be my guess, but yeah, very interesting from a structure point of view. The episode ends with Troy meeting Jack and sort of helping him open these red doors, his spooky red door, which is we cut on the...
see it. Yeah, we cut there.
So that's kind of that stuff. There's some stuff between Troy and Riker, basically just kind of fixing their problems. Like now they're happy, like they're over the death of the son.
I did like that scene. I like the two of them together. I also like that it kind of retcons something from Picard season 1, because when we first meet Riker, yes, he's like happy and making pizza and they're like loving their life, and then, you know, in the beginning of this season, he's talking to Picard about how miserable he actually is. And so even we talked about how, was he just faking it the whole time? Does that make it extra sad? But it turns out that Deanna has been making the pain better for him. And that's why he was so happy in season 1.
Honestly, this actually feels like a big crossing of a line to me.
A little bit.
They kind of gloss over it here, where he's just kind of like, you had to let me.
Well, at least he was mad about it. He was like,
Yeah.
you did that to me, and you tried to take that grieving away from me. And she justified it as like, well, I had to deal with my emotion and everybody's emotion, so I had to do something. So it was a conversation that at least made sense. But you're totally right. That definitely crosses the line.
It feels very severe to me. It feels like, it's like you're a puppet and you have your strings pulled so you're not upset anymore. That's not healing. That's
especially as a counselor. Not a great counselor, admittedly, but
yeah, I feel ethically she's a bit on the dodgy side with that one. But yeah, so they have their thing. Obviously, Data we have to talk about and how they deal with that. So
I don't love this stuff, honestly.
I like parts of it. I think some of it's a little silly, like them having like this colored display of like on the screen of his brain that's like changing from red to blue depending on which one's winning. I thought was a bit too goofy.
It really was.
Yeah, I think
we have to have some kind of representation so the audience understands. But we understand.
I kind of like the idea though that Data doesn't kill Lore. He just effectively sort of tricks him into saying, hey, no, like my memories are important, and because you care about my memories, that means you're accepting me as part of you, and therefore we're merging rather than you just, hostile takeover that you're thinking you're doing. So
I agree. I like the strategy of like, instead of killing Lore, which he can't do anyway, he instead has to trick him into becoming Data.
Yes.
By giving him the memories of Data.
Yeah, so we see the cat, we see the Tashiar hologram, we see the Sherlock Holmes stuff.
Who thought we get a Spot cameo?
I'm pretty sure it's a different cat.
What?
The cat that was alive in the late 80s and early 90s is not still around, Tara. I'm sorry to say.
There's already multiple Spots.
Yeah. Stunt cats. They go through them a lot, I guess. I think the core idea here was solid. I think the performance from Spiner is a little interesting once he wakes up. I like
I agree.
He jumps into action quickly, which I liked. I did feel that there's some liberties been taken here because he's technically a new version of Data who feels things, that he's not playing it like old Data. But I almost feel like it would have been more effective if he still sounded and spoke like old Data, but did the new little things as well. So it didn't sound that weird when he used some contractions, because he wasn't really speaking like Data anymore, so it didn't stick out in the way it should have.
It did feel weird when he was insulting the villain, though.
Oh yeah, when he says he's a pissed off security system.
Pissed off security system who is trying to defeat a over monologuing protoplasm or something like that.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, no, that's fair, because he says, he says we're, and then Geordi's like, wait, you used a contraction. He's like, no, I didn't. And I thought, okay, that's kind of funny, because didn't.
I don't know for sure, but I wonder if that is something that the fans, I'm sure they have it, if they've ever checked to see if that's been consistent throughout the whole series. Because I bet there's been some mistakes.
Yeah, one of the first things me and Connor ever said when we started Next Gen and they set this up, we were like, there is no way they went all 7 seasons without accidentally slipping one in. No way.
I wonder. Does possessors, do they count as contractions? Like he wouldn't say it is, but he might say it's when referring to somebody's thing.
Yes. Well, you'd have to say it. There's no other way to say that. You can't.
Yeah.
Because you can't say
hers or something.
Like, let's say I was talking about you, and it was like Tara's ball. I can't say Tara is ball, because that's a different meme. You're not a ball.
So, like, why would those contractions be okay, but the other version of a contraction Data can't do? Or do they just write around it,
Yeah, probably.
Where he would say, like, the ball that belongs to Tara.
That sounds like something Data would say, actually, now you've said it out loud. Yeah. They just write it another way around, so he never has to do it.
I wonder.
Except for when they make a mistake.
Except when there's improv. Yeah.
That must be so dangerous.
I bet they have. I haven't actually looked into it.
I wonder how many times on set on the old Star Trek, like, they're like, Brent, stop improvising. Every time you improvise, it's so dangerous because all your dialogue's like really, really specifically written because there's a lot of rules. He's like, don't worry.
Our fans are all super nerds. They're gonna get upset.
I'm one with my character. I know how to speak as Data. Yeah.
He really does though, because like when he channels Data versus the other androids or Soons and stuff, like it does feel very warm and comforting. Like, oh yeah, that's Data.
It did. When he first spoke a couple episodes ago, it did. And then it did hear parts when he was talking to Lord. But once he wakes up, he's kind of this new Data. He's this
new thing.
Yeah. And he points that out, that it still feels like he's mostly Data, but he's got these other extra bits and pieces, and he speaks with a bit more pizzazz and whatnot. I did roll my eyes a little bit where they kind of quietly, just quickly tried to like, oh, by the way, at the end of Nemesis, Data wanted to do this. Can we just quickly like give everyone a reason why that's okay now? And Data's like, yeah, that was that, Data. I would rather be anywhere else with all my crew. And I'm like, this just feels like they're just doing this quickly because they know people are going to ask, and it felt really.
Well, not just that, but like that was the end of the first season of Picard. Was that Data wanted to die? He wanted the experience of dying. So so he had to say, well, that was that Data, because that Data did die. And maybe it was your Data, but this Data is a different version of it. This is the Data that was saved on B4 or something.
Here's the thing, though. From a fan and from like a writing perspective, they still want us all to feel like this is the real Data.
Yeah.
But so they're trying to have their cake and eating it too, and it's just a little bit like you're being a bit cute here, just so you can have Data back, basically.
I mean, we accept it with Spock. We can do it with Data, I guess.
That's true. That's true. Technically, we did it with Spock. Oh dear. Yeah. So the Data stuff's obviously I liked him interacting with Geordi. That was all, pleasant and whatnot. So
Geordi felt like regular ass Geordi. Because, I mean, he was just working on Data the whole time.
Yeah, Geordi channels himself, or his old self, pretty well, I would say. I think that's the reason why I'm upset that he's doing a different performance as this new Data, is because it was the voice that really made it feel like that's really him, right? Because he was so good at still doing the voice and still making us feel like Data. But when he takes that away, I just see old man Brent Spiner walking around. That's all I'm seeing. The voice like covered that up, it masked it, and it made it feel like Data.
Yeah, you're right.
So yeah, it obviously this is the choice they've made. I understand why they've made that choice, but it does ruin the magic a little bit of because he was doing it so well up until that point. So it's interesting. Anything else we should be talking about here?
I did like the moment when Jack was with his parents and telling them like he was really, really struggling, but like realized that he had to tell them about his secret, or at least how he was feeling. And the first thing like they say to him is like, we're with you, like whatever is going on. Like they were both just like so ready and like said the right things as parents, who concerned parents. And I thought that was like a nice little moment.
Assuming we're right about the sort of general direction we're going with this being Borg stuff, right? And his like sort of like connection to the collective and wanting to feel like part of something. I think if they're smart with the writing here, and it feels like they could be going down this path, you have this idea of him wanting this connection, but it won't come from the Borg and the collective. It'll come from two loving parents. It'll come from feeling like you're part of a family, and we can thematically compare that connection and feeling that you're part of a group and loved versus what the Borg is, and him choosing that over the other one. And I can see them making some smart little thematic, cross references there.
They probably will.
So I respect that if that's what they're doing.
Do we still think that it's definitely Picard's kid? Because there was some doubt last week.
I think it is. What made us doubt that last week? I can't remember.
It was Vedic, whatever. Vedic.
Yeah.
It was her saying that he doesn't belong to you or something, to Beverly, and Beverly's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, so I remember why we said that now. I think it now fits Borg. Like, I think it's like, no, he belongs to the collective. He belongs to, the Queen or whatever.
Okay.
If that's where we're going with this, I almost hope it isn't, just because I want to be surprised,
Yeah.
But it doesn't make enough sense. I won't be mad at it. It does make a relative amount of like logic that's what it is. But it would be nice if they pull something out of like deep Star Trek lore that's going to be more shocking, but still makes sense though. That's important. It still has to make sense. There
was something that I saw, not on like, I didn't watch a video, but there was like a headline when I was scrolling through YouTube, and someone was connecting the red eyes from that Jack makes to what happens later in Deep Space Nine, which I won't say too much because I don't want to spoil anything to you. But there is like an evil presence, how like there isn't like an ancient evil, kind of like how the wormhole aliens are the gods. There's also a version of that that's like demons.
Okay.
So for the Bajorans, and they make red eyes, and they're talking about like ancient evil and stuff, and there is a lot of connections to Deep Space Nine going on. So
man, that is so wild if they go down that path, because like it's just so weird how this is more of a Deep Space Nine follow-up. But it's with the cast of Next Gen.
And if they do that, like Avery Brooks could show up in the end, and it would totally make sense. But like I don't want that. I don't know if I want that to happen, because then they would really be doing like just this season is not just Next Generation. It's also got a lot of Voyager in it with Seven and all the cameos we've been getting for that, and then also so much of Deep Space Nine. I think
the worry is that if they do go too far with Deep Space Nine stuff, it might mean that you'll never have a chance of any sort of Deep Space Nine follow up, or because we did it in Picard already. It's like with none of the cast, but sure.
Well, I mean, there's never a chance to ruin anything.
That's true. Yeah.
Plus, a lot of Deep Space Nine, unfortunately, has lost some cast members.
Oh, sure, yeah. I think, because the thing with Voyager is that Voyager isn't as loved, generally speaking, as the other shows. So I think Seven having such a prominent role in this show already is Voyager's kind of like, hurrah.
Well, also, Prodigy, Star Trek Prodigy has a lot of Voyager in it, too.
There you go, yeah. So
Janeway's in it, Chakotay's in it. Yeah. I'm sure there's more. I haven't caught up with Prodigy, but it was really good. I was really enjoying it.
Damn, you know what? Deep Space Nine having some of their cast be dead makes it just more like Babylon 5. That's actually really sad.
Well, not like a lot, but some prominent ones.
Yeah.
Odo died, and Nog died recently. Oh, in the same year, like back to back.
Oh, wait, the kid, Nog?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a shame. I mean, obviously he's not a kid.
Well, Well, even in Deep Space Nine, he wasn't really a kid. He had that disease affects the pituitary gland, so that you're an adult but you look like a child, and obviously he used that for his acting career, so he can forever play children.
That's a dream for Hollywood, because that means that you look like a kid, but all those rules about how much a kid can work in Hollywood don't apply because you're an adult.
Yep, exactly. So that's basically what he did.
Yeah. Oh, that's a shame. But I think the episode here was mostly solid. If I have a complaint that's sort of more broad than just like a little nitpick of like a little moment that's a bit too on the nose or whatever, it would probably just be that it felt a little sort of almost a little underwhelming towards the end. But see, when they're fighting back and Raffi starts kicking ass in the hallway and like the plan's forming to open the safety hatch to get rid of Vadic, there was kind of just a little bit of a feeling of like, this doesn't feel like it's as big a deal as it should. And I think it's because it has kind of come about a lot haphazard. In fact, there's even a joke early in the episode that so last week we were saying how, I was complaining especially that I thought all the characters looked like idiots, right? Both the good guys and the bad guys.
Turns out you were right.
Right, yeah, it turns out I was right. And they even make a joke about it this episode. They have the joke cut where Riker says, yeah, I had to send that code because they were torturing you, but if I know
Picard's on it.
Yeah, he's got a plan. He's got it in the palm of his hand, and then it cuts to her on the bridge, like in charge, and it's like, that went well.
With a phaser pointed at everybody.
But that was the moment where I went, there's no chance, because the one hope we had is that, this was all some big plan, like this is all part of the plan. But
I mean, it's okay to see people fail from time to time. That's what The Last Jedi was about. It's about failure,
That's kind of why that was so frustrating to watch for me as well, is that no one was good at anything. It was just like series of errors.
It's an important lesson to learn.
Oh dear. Yeah, so I think because of that, combined with the fact that this is not really the ending, but it kind of feels like an ending, because we're kind of almost not restarting, but we're, you know what I mean? Like, these last two feel kind of separate from the rest, because this one so perfectly put everything in place for.
We've seemed to have gone over the villain that was a distraction from the main villain that we're going to get next week probably. And this whole thing has been a build up to getting the band back together.
And it sort of occurred to me this episode that so much of this season, like once we arrived at the Titan, we have spent all the time on the Titan, and it's all been about dodging this one ship and just and obviously there's no problem with always being on the ship. So many episodes of classic Star Trek are just on the Enterprise. Like, that's not that weird, but like they're doing different things, whereas this has been like this consistent where we're talking about Jack, what's going on, we're trying to solve what the Changelings are up to, but it feels like it doesn't feel like we've really been doing that much in sense of like a broad scope of things. It's all been very kind of this one thing. So it's kind of interesting to get to the end of this episode and realize, all this stuff with Vadic and them chasing them around, that's done now. We spent most of the season on that, and it's over. And that might not be a problem once we actually see these last two episodes and we see how they do it. But it does make it feel like this was 8 episodes of prelude for the real story, which will be the next 2.
For the movie that we're getting.
Yeah, which will be fine if it's good. If it's not good, then I think retroactively some of what I just said might be a little annoying.
I don't want to be the person who watches the show with their arms folded. In fact, I think I've been very generous with my nitpickiness throughout the series of Picard. But I've just been hurt so many times by the show. So. I'm not gonna get my hopes up that it's gonna be the best ever next week or the week after that. But I suspect it'll be like I said earlier, and it's just going to be one big circle jerk about how great the shows were in the 90s.
Oh, do you know, there was a little feeling I had as well. As soon as Vadik started talking about the red door, what's behind the red door, I started to think, they've not leaned on it too much, but it's starting to sound a little bit like the mystery box plot sort of style. Mm. Who's the Red Angel?
Yeah,
kind of thing.
I don't like season 2 of Discovery. It's the worst season that they did.
Yeah, I don't know. It's something that a lot of the modern Trek's been guilty of. But
also modern TV writing. I mean, we've been watching Quantum Leap. It's the same thing there.
Oh, true. Yeah, all the shows are guilty of it. Yeah,
it's just the style of this time that we're in for TV. Until people get, bored of it or frustrated by it, or it becomes a joke.
Yeah. So it wasn't a bad episode though. I enjoyed the Jack trying to use his ability in proactive ways. I like, because you've set something up and he tries to use it to win.
I like the way that it was filmed also, so you knew exactly like where he was going and kind of what his limitations were and what his strategy that he was trying to use.
Yeah, and it was nice to have all the crew together at the end.
It sure was.
So, that's also nice. And I enjoyed Vadik's death. And
it was pretty gruesome for Star Trek.
Yeah. I mean, not for this show, because we have had beheadings and other stuff, but...
More, please. It was really weird when... the Australian Romulan did it.
Yes.
But I like it when Worf does it.
He actually, she has a line right before she gets sucked out into space where she says "effing solids." And
I like that naturally.
Yeah, I actually thought that was a good use of an F-bomb. It still doesn't feel like it's right in Trek, but at least if it's a villain,
but it felt right for like an action movie, right?
Yeah, but for a villain to use it, it felt more right than otherwise. And plus, it's just kind of funny to think that they're prejudiced against solids because they're not solids. It's just kind of funny to me.
Well, just you wait. We've got so much to look forward to in Deep Space Nine.
I am looking forward to it. I can't wait.
I'm sure Odo refers to humans as solids, or just like people who aren't like him, solids.
Yes, but once he's actually in the middle of this war and he has to start picking sides, I can't wait until he has to
I'm glad you're excited about it and not just super disappointed that you know so much.
I can't really be mad that this is using its own history of like different Trek. You know, when I see
really your fault.
When I see a headline, it's not my fault, but when I see a headline the day Split comes out that spoils what the ending's going to be, that would have blown my mind had I not known it and actively ruined my anticipation for it, then I'll be mad. I'm not mad at this though. I just wish Picard as a whole was a better show. It would go down smoother if the whole show was really good.
I wish the first 2 seasons were like this season, yeah.
That would be an improvement. Yes, that would be an improvement. But yeah. All right, well there you go. That's surrender. Never give up, never surrender. Every time I say surrender, I just want to quote Galaxy Quest.
It is kind of a Star Trek movie.
It is a Star Trek. It's the best Star Trek movie.
According to Brent Spiner.
He knows what he's talking about. It's not only got a Star Trek plot, but it's also about Star Trek in a meta sense, and it tells the story perfectly. It's a love letter to loving something like Star Trek. It's wonderful.
To fandom.
Yes.
It's wonderful, indeed.
All right.
We'll watch that later.
That is save it because we'll do it in Ace at some point.
I mean, I've seen it like 500 times.
Exactly. Don't burn yourself out on it.
Never surrender.
By Grathbar's hammer, I will watch thee. All right.
I was just trying to think of how I could incorporate that.
By Grathbar's hammer, what a savings! I love to detest in Alan Rickman's voice as he says, "What a savings!"
What a savings!
It fills me with so much joy. All right, that is this week's Picard. We have 2 left. Be excited, all that jazz. And then after Picard's done, we'll be going back and finishing off Babylon 5 for those of you who are of interest in that. So.
Waiting with bated breath.
Yes, I know.
I hope they do a last time on because it's been a while.
It's a TV movie next, so I've got a funny feeling they're not going to. In fact,
okay.
I believe the TV movie we've got next is set like during season 4.
Okay.
I think.
So I don't have to remember too much.
Oh well. Anyway, that's Picard. Let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments below. Like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications, all that stuff. You can get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates, and of course you can support all the content by going over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv and help keep it all coming. So that is us. That is the show. Thank you once again. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?